What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 81 of the Silver and Gold podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
And today we've got kind of a shorter show than normal, which for some of you, it might be bad news. For some of you, you're going to be able to catch the whole show this time. We're going to go ahead and jump right into our first topic. Mike, I actually think it might be better if we start with the Raiders today. I knew I was forgetting to bring up something with you before the show, but let's go ahead and start with the Raiders first. Are you ready to do that, or you want me to do the Niners first?
No, I'm ready.
All right, cool. So tell us about the Raiders versus Seahawks preseason game.
So the Raiders and the Seahawks played last week, and I mean, spoiler alert, if you didn't watch the game, they ended in tie, which in the preseason does not matter, right?
Oh, it matters.
Yeah.
It matters.
I mean, I guess ending in a tie is kind of fitting for Pete Carroll versus his old Seahawks, right?
Yeah.
It's funny because my mom texted me the next day, I think, maybe 2 days later, about the game and said, oh, my stepdad and she are excited for, watching the Raiders this year.
Yeah.
And they're mostly Niner fans, but, they root for both teams. And basically the gist was, oh, they looked good from my mom. Probably because they watched the end of the game and it was like, wow, they came back and, they made it a good game. But my thought was I couldn't feel more different, like more the opposite way, because the first half of this preseason game was alarming, to say the least. And I'm not one to like freak out over a preseason game, and I'm not really freaking out. I just didn't like that. What I noticed was the Seahawks were playing their second stringers, and the Raiders were playing their first stringers. I think the only first stringer that didn't play in this game was Brock Bowers, if I'm not mistaken. I saw Colton Miller. I saw Max Crosby, two guys that I wouldn't really expect in the preseason. Obviously, Geno Smith was on the first drive. Jacoby Myers, Michael Mayer. Dante Thornton did line up as a starter on the first snap of the game on offense.
And I noticed he kept playing after the starters were already out.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. That makes sense to me in the sense of getting getting your rookies, as many snaps as possible in an NFL game, right? Mm-hmm. But point being, Seahawks second stringers versus Raiders first stringers, like, we should demolish them these first two drives. If those are our only drives, one drive on offense, one drive on defense, which is pretty much what it was for the starters.
Yeah. We
should demolish the Seahawks in these first two drives. And I'm forgetting who, I want to say we received first. I I could be wrong on that, but let's just say that we received the ball first. The first issue at hand was, I mean, again, considering that, assuming, I guess, because I don't know the Seahawks players that well, assuming these were the second stringers for the Seahawks, the Raiders' run blocking looked worse than last year.
No, not worse, but there was no push. Just like last year, in my opinion. Because when
I don't know. What I'm saying is considering that they were second stringers, and also considering that the running back behind them is far superior than any running back they had last year, and he had -3 yards, and everybody's saying, "Oh, everybody's freaking out, saying he's a bust." Guys, chill the fuck out. Jesus.
honestly, I think they might be right, dude. Ashton Janty didn't gain a single yard in the first preseason game of his career. I think honestly, I think it's very. I wouldn't. It's not an overstatement to just write off his whole career. Like at this point,
Yeah.
he had his opportunity. He dropped the ball. Okay.
He should demand a trade.
Sarcasm.
Honestly. No. I mean, I couldn't help but find it to be really annoying, and I don't know if this is just like us groveled Raider fans. Like, I don't know why this is the reaction for some Raider fans, but when Janty goes out there for -3 yards, and then I think the next morning, the next day, Trevion Henderson goes out, and the first touch he gets is the kick return, and he houses that bitch for 100 yards. And then he goes on offense for the first quarter, and he just looks explosive. And now, all of a sudden, every Raider fan that was celebrating the Gianti pick is saying, "See, I knew we should have took Trevion Henderson in the second round, took an offensive lineman or defensive player in the first round, and blah, 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 blah." Really? Like, because of a preseason game, because of 3 snaps, all of a sudden Gianti sucks, and we should have took this other guy? Come on, guys. Like, either A, grow up, B, smarten up, or C, just stop.
So you don't think that Pete Carroll and John Spytek should be publicly executed in Las Vegas as like a show?
No, I do not.
Or at least fired at the very least?
Yeah, no. We're one preseason game in. But all that being said, I'm not freaking out about GNT. I'm personally on the verge of freaking out over how terrible the offensive line looked in the run game. Like, their run blocking was horrid. And it kind of makes sense because they're shuffling around Jordan Meredith and Jackson Powers-Johnson. I don't think Dylan Parham has been the strongest, interior offensive lineman to begin with. And bear in mind, last year he was playing right guard. Now he's on the left. So it checks out that they were having struggles. Slight, jump ahead here, but another issue that I noticed was missing tackles. Just missed tackles galore in this game from the Raiders. And then I found out after the game that the Raiders haven't tackled at all in any padded practices so far, this offseason.
Uh-huh. Well, that's just an NFL thing. Like, across the board, dude, they kind of go really, really... It's very, very watered down from what it used to be. Because I was listening to Grant and his dad earlier, and, they were talking about... Lowell was talking about how, like... All right. Grant mentioned that practice was like 80 minutes today for the Niners, which is like very, very short. And so back then, when the Niners used to practice in Rockland, in
Rockland?
In Rockland, California, they used to, they used to go, I think, dorm, and they used to practice over in Rockland.
Okay, that's like Napa. That's fine.
Yeah, they would have camp, or at least they would have training camp there, right? And then I don't think that was like during the season. I don't think they were practicing there, but
yeah, no, that checks out.
But I think
sounds
during
like
the
preseason, like the Raiders in Napa. Yeah,
but essentially they used to do 2 a days, and each practice was 3 hours long, and they would go full on tackling.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the NFL used to have like 2 days and stuff, and now it's just,
Yeah.
like you said, 90-minute practices. They can't tackle, yada yada yada. Yeah, it's different. I think that's because of over time negotiating CBAs and whatnot. Is it CBAs?
Yeah.
I think
Collective
it's CBAs.
bargaining
Yeah.
agreements.
Yeah. So chances are the NFLPA, worked on making practices less grueling for the players, right?
But question, do
Yep.
we see, I want to know the numbers, cuz I feel like back then all of the superstars were able to play for a full season, you know? And yeah, it was a 16 game season versus now it's a 17 game season, but like every year it's just, you get certain teams that are just like absolutely like demolished by injuries.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And then it's like,
Yeah,
oh, so and so pulled his hamstring, so and so tore his Achilles, so and so tore their ACL. You know?
yeah. Oh, I'd love to see numbers on that. Relative to like amount of time for practice, per year or something like that. But I would say in the past, I feel like quarterbacks were definitely getting knocked out of games more, like early 2000s and prior, which I'd say they've done a good job with that. But when your team's on the other end of that, of like, roughing the passer, it's like, come on, dude. Like, that would have never been a penalty back in the day.
Yeah.
But, anyways. But my point about missing tackles isn't necessarily that they haven't practiced it. It's just, again, part of the reason why I'm like sitting here like, oh god, that was rough. That I'm on the verge of freaking out is because you're pro NFL players. You shouldn't be missing tackles this bad. Um, and I mean, my main issues with this game was the run blocking all the way through the third quarter, or at least halftime. Uh, the tackling in general, right? But mostly, I think from corners and maybe some edge defenders. We'll get to some good players who actually did tackle well. There's a specific guy who tackled really well in this game.
Yeah, I know exactly
Um,
who you're talking about.
yeah, I'm very impressed and happy. And setting the edge. The third issue that I noticed in this game was this lack of setting the edge on defense that caused. I'm forgetting was it Roy Hallowy? I'm thinking of Roy Halou. I forget the running back's name for the Seahawks. It's funny because he's from Boise State, so again, more crapping on Gianti, but people were joking that this running back's the better running back from Boise State.
I mean,
Um,
clearly, right?
right, clearly in the preseason game that makes sense against the Raiders, no less. Um, but yeah, that guy was just picking up yards and yards on the edge, on just like running off to the boundary. Yeah, Holini. I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, I see Thrash and Kenny 49ers. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for tuning
Yep.
in.
But yeah, I mean, they were just racking up rushing yards because the Raiders just refused to set the edge. It was infuriating because it was all in the first half when guys who are probably going to make this team are in the game and they're getting pummeled. The offensive line was not moving anybody. Again, the starters were not moving backups for the Seahawks. They were not moving anybody. And on the reverse aspect, when the starting defense got on the field, the Seahawks, presumably, backup offensive line, just had their way with them. That's not a good sign. I mean, unless it's like, well, we haven't, tackled much in practice. We haven't really gotten that physical yet. Like, this is a good warm up for the guys. One drive? Like, if we're pros, we're pros. We should be playing like starters. That's my opinion, but I don't know. It just looked bad. The only positive from the starters was the fact that after the defense just bent and bent and bent and bent, and right when you think, oh, they're gonna break, they're gonna give up the touchdown to the quarterback from the Broncos. Now let's see how. I'm thinking Mac Jones. It's not Mac Jones. Number 2, Drew Lock. Drew Lock.
Oh, yeah.
George Hulani, Boise State. Yes, sir. Hey, he had a hell of a game. But starting defense for the Raiders is just going down the field off Drew Lock. Drew Lock is marching down the field on them. And then finally Isaiah Polamau gets the diving interception.
Which
Great
was a
play.
great play. Yeah.
Great play. He read it all the way. I mean, he was able to dive, catch it, survive the ground. It was great. Just moving down here. I mean, Gino looked good. I liked what I saw from Gino. There were a few dropped passes that I don't think were on him. One to the rookie, Dante Thornton, that I think with time will get better. It was kind of it wasn't like your usual like timed pass or anything. It was more like out of structure, right? And he was trying to throw it behind the shoulder, and I don't think Thornton's body was ready for that. And then actually Jacoby Myers, the guy who a year ago had like no drops, dropped a pass in the preseason. I think he was just it was like a screen, I think, and he was just probably thinking like go 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 and didn't focus on catching the ball first.
It was like back-to-back drops, with
Yeah, it just stalled
yeah.
stalled the drive. Because Gino, he had a play, I think it was his first pass play. I think he threw it to Trey Tucker. It was just really nice the way that he rolled out, and he was kind of like, oh, I could run it, and then a linebacker came up and he just made the decision, like threw it. Beautiful pass to Trey Tucker. And I don't know why it took until this game, but for some reason I'm starting to get really good vibes on Trey Tucker. Um, I feel like, and I've been kind of critical of him. I think part of the reason why I'm getting good vibes on Trey Tucker is Chip Kelly. Um, and that's another reason, I guess, why I'm not fully freaking out or anything off of one preseason game, and I'm not going to freak out coming out of a preseason period. Uh, but these offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators are calling very vanilla plays. It's not it's not worrisome if like the play calling is like, oh, what was that? They're not going to show their hands right now. Like I genuinely believe Chip Kelly is going to cook this season, and it's not going to be shown in the preseason at all. And I think some guys who will benefit the most from Chip Kelly will be Trey Tucker, Gianti, and I mean I think obviously the number one target is going to be Bowers. I just expect him to get guys into space and to get open. So really, I mean all the receivers, especially Jacoby Myers, but Trey Tucker specifically. I'm getting good vibes from him. Finally, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, but stepping away from the starters here, I feel like the only positive starters to me were Gino and Isaiah Polamau. Once Aiden O'Connell came in, pretty quickly I realized that Aiden O'Connell did not look good in this fucking game. I think he threw 2 picks. I don't have the stats in front of me, but he was struggling in the first half, bad. Backup linebacker Matt Jones looked terrible. I've never even heard of him, but in coverage and in space, like tackling, terrible. He was one of the culprits for missed tackles. On the positive side, I mean, this probably goes back to starters, kind of, but the guy we were hinting at earlier, Jamal Adams. As far as actually making tackles, Jamal Adams looks like a fucking linebacker. He looks like a starting linebacker, and he looks like I out of one preseason game, he's making the team. He is making the team. And at this point, I wonder if he's now fighting to start. Will we see more of Jermaine Pratt or Devin White or whoever in this Niner game coming up?
There was a play that I saw Devin White could have made a tackle for a loss, and he just tried to arm tackle the guy and just
Yes.
You know exactly the play I'm talking about?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, just I'm not going to single out everybody, but if you go back and watch the game, it's like, wow. Yeah, I remember seeing that play and thinking that must have been like a corner, right? Maybe Polamalu. I think Polamalu actually had a pretty ugly missed tackle on like one of the first two plays. But yeah, they're seeing a linebacker in Devin White miss a tackle like that. I was like, dude, that
I was
is
like,
literally your job.
what the hell is his problem?
Yeah, man. I'm just personally, linebackers should not miss tackles. So seeing Jamal Adams like just hitting the gap and tackling guys immediately, it was so refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
So Jamal Adams is getting big brownie points from me coming out of this game.
Let me play a little devil's advocate because you're kind of venting off a lot of criticism for the Raiders right now, because they were going against second stringers on the Seahawks. So here's the thing: the Seahawks right now are in the second year of a brand new regime. With I think it's Mike McDonald,
Yep.
their head coach, and so he's a defensive minded head coach. He was the defensive coordinator at the Ravens. And the Seahawks last year went 10-7 and didn't make the playoffs. Like they barely just missed out on the playoffs. So I'm kind of not surprised that they have like good depth. Like I'm not saying it's not alarming, but there could be worse teams to get bullied by, their second stringers, if that makes sense. Like for all
Yeah.
we know, the Seahawks could be like actually a really good team this year with a lot of depth.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
being
no,
said,
I can see it.
the Raiders starters getting outplayed by a second unit is not good, but I just wanted to say like, if you guys were playing the Cleveland Browns second stringers and getting worked, or like the
Yeah.
New Orleans Saints second stringers and getting worked, I'd be
Oh
like,
wow.
all right.
Yeah.
Like that's really bad.
I want to say the Raiders are playing the Cardinals week 3, but I could actually be totally wrong. I can find out really quick. Let's see. Who are the Raiders playing?
While you look
week
for that, I
3?
just want to give a shout out to Will in the comments. Says, long time no see, fellas. Hope y'all have been good. Will, welcome back.
Yes.
If I remember correctly,
up?
you're a Niner fan who lives in Vegas. So you, theoretically, I mean, do they allow attendance at the joint practice, for fans?
That's a great question. I know the Raiders they have had practice completely, I don't know about completely, but open to the public. Which is very cool. They haven't done that in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you can either go to the joint practice or you can go to the video store and return some tapes.
Yeah.
And then Kenny 49er says, Gino moving to a dome team will be a nice boost.
Yeah. I think so. I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, especially if he was Jared Goff. That would, but Jared Goff already plays in a dome. But like, do you remember that stat from like 2 years ago where he just like played horribly outside and like played amazing, like in an indoor stadium?
Oh yeah. I think 2 years ago he was like, if he was indoors, he was throwing for 400 yards. If he was outdoors, like 200 in a pick at least.
Yeah, yeah. So there is something to that. But another thing that kind of jumped out to me about this game was just kind of the way that it ended, because it almost felt like, I had to like tune the game back on because I got really busy that day. It was a Thursday night, and literally I was getting texts from our group chat, and then Tyler was like, "Why didn't the Raiders?" Why didn't they just go for it? There's no tie. Yeah, there's no overtime in the preseason. They just tie. And I was like, my initial reaction, I was like, dude, it's almost 10 o'clock. The game's still on. Like, or it was like, it was really late. And so I turned it back on. And, the game was, like, as you mentioned earlier, was really good at the end. And it seemed like, wow. It seemed like, wow. This is a moment right here where this is the Pete Carroll effect, where the Raiders are going to come back and things are going to go right, and they're going to win the football game. And kind of halfway, they did drive down the field and they did kick a field goal. It just got blocked, so it was kind of like it's kind of exactly it was a Raider ending, but just without the loss. That would be like in the past, over the past like 2 decades, that game would have been like a must-win game, or like a game early on in the season that's like kind of pivotal that they win that week, and that would have been the game tying field goal rather than the game winning one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that would. Yeah, I've dealt with those. That's for sure. Although it's funny because I don't think that happens a lot to Raider games. It's more of like terrible calls from the refs. You know.
Oh, but also, if you really think about it, the Raiders getting worked, by the Seahawks second stringers. After the first stringers were out, the Raiders did put up 23 points, So it was kind of
Yeah,
like even playing field. And you don't feel like O'Connell played particularly well. You want to talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, he threw picks. He threw like 2 picks that were not good. There was one where he attempted a deep pass to Dante Thornton, if I'm not mistaken, and he just underthrew him. And I don't quite remember the second one. It might have been a deflection, but for a guy that started games for us, like I would have expected, like, all right, now's the time where this game's gonna pick up. Like, we're putting O'Connell in versus second stringers. Like, hey, he's played against first stringers. Come on. No. I Once they went to halftime, I want to say they were down like 16-3.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought to myself, you know what? I've had enough of Aiden O'Connell tonight. Like, let's not let him go out there in the third quarter against fucking fourth stringers and throw another pick. Put Cam Miller in. Let's see what the kid's got, right? And then they come out in the third quarter and Aiden O'Connell's still playing. And I don't know if it was the first drive, maybe the second drive. They finally go down and they score a touchdown with Dylan Lobby, who was playing pretty good in this game. Honestly, he was a lot of fun to watch in this one. Not like a bunch of big plays, but like that dude knows how to celebrate. He seems hilarious. There's the touchdown he did like this like dice roll thing on his knee I was dying laughing. And then later he got like a first down like on a third down, right? And he did like the sniff first down thing or something like that. Like I was just cracking up. This yeah. But I'm rooting for him. If he can keep playing good, I'd love to see him make the team as like the fourth running back, or for some reason if they keep 5, but I doubt it.
I mean, if he doesn't make the team, there might be room on the Niners roster because everybody's fucking hurt.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get to that.
He can be
plus he is a good return man.
CMC.
So yeah, no, yeah. He is a good return man, so he has some, some flexibility and some how do you say, some more value to him by playing more than just running back. But I mean, really, this game didn't get exciting until Cam Miller came in, and that's like once that started happening, I just couldn't help but think like, man, I really wish they put him in the third quarter. Like maybe we would have actually won this game, which is crazy considering in the reverse respect is Aiden O'Connell. Like my genuine thought was Cam Miller looked that much better than Aiden O'Connell in this game, in his first preseason game.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the preseason. It doesn't matter if you win.
It's the honestly, preseason. It doesn't matter. He was going up against lesser talent.
It matters more how it looks or like how it flows than like the actual score. It's about
and probably efficiency. Yeah. Let me just plow through the rest of these notes and then we can move on to the Niners, honestly. One thing that I did notice, and this was an Aiden O'Connell problem, not a Cam Miller problem, because by the time Cam Miller came in, Jack Besh was no longer playing.
Mm-hmm.
But for I don't know if I think Besh was probably done by halftime, but in probably the second quarter, I just couldn't help but sit at the couch and just think to myself, just throw it to Besh. Like there were multiple replays where I would see, the attempt that Aiden O'Connell made, whether they completed it or not, and then I could see Besh in like the corner of the screen getting wide open. Not every play, but on these like breaking routes, like he was just getting open. And I don't know why he wasn't getting the ball. Like he got one target, I think, in this game. So I don't know if we're doing a preview for the next game, right?
We will after the Niner topic.
Right. Spoiler alert. I want to see more Jack Besh in this Niner game because I was very annoyed with Aiden O'Connell not targeting him in this Seahawks game. Charles Grant, he had some struggles. At least I think he gave up a sack. It's the rookie third round left tackle. But I think he also had some, positives to him. He just looked a little raw, which is what was expected, I think. God, I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. Kai Blue Kelly, cornerback. Um, was he was flashing on a couple plays, especially in one specific drive. He made a couple good plays in coverage and also tackling. Like if you're good in coverage and you can tackle at corner, you're making an NFL team. And they're actually just today he was actually spotted getting reps with the ones. So Kai Blue Kelly is a name to look out for moving forward. Tonka Hemingway, the rookie, I think fourth rounder. They announced him as a D tackle. I'm pretty sure he was playing on the edge in this game, and he was getting after it in the pass rush. He was doing pretty good. And then I didn't notice him personally, but I've seen multiple people say that JJ Pegues looked really good in this game, and that he has a future in the NFL for sure. I also noticed Jackson Powers Johnson and Jordan Meredith, the two guys switching whatever they're doing at center and right guard right now. They played through the third quarter, which is very odd considering Jackson Powers Johnson was a full-time starter last year. Just an odd decision to me. But I understand they're trying to get that figured out, so all right.
He started. Jackson Powers Johnson started, and then he played
Both.
into the third quarter.
Jackson Powers Johnson and Meredith, yeah.
I wonder if, it just has to do with the transition of, moving, because we talked about it last week, but it kind of seems like Jackson Powers Johnson was a little bit, I guess, hesitant to really want to play guard. So I wonder if that's just, going through the lumps now, getting him acclimated, going through the motions and everything before the season starts, because maybe they don't plan on playing their starters much the remainder of preseason games, and then Jackson Powers Johnson is still young, and maybe he just needs the reps.
Yeah, possibly. It also just could be simply, the new scheme, the new blocking scheme paired with new position, right? Switching positions for that all makes sense. I'm not upset with it until a guy gets injured, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, dude, what the fuck? But until then, whatever they think is best, go right ahead. But yeah. Chris Collier is the fifth string running back. I noticed some good pass pro reps from him, which is always valuable at running back. Philip Dorsett, who was just signed maybe a month ago, he was catching everything that was thrown his way. He looked reliable. He's 29, maybe even 30, but he still looks, pretty fast, shifty. He's probably, if he puts up another good preseason game and, a bunch of good practices together in a row, I could see him being the last wide receiver to make the team. Just as a veteran, sort of handsy guy.
Yeah.
Let's see. The first drive in the third quarter was when I first noticed Aiden O'Connell looked good in this game.
Hmm.
Maybe he finally got into a groove or got comfortable. I don't know what, but it took until the beginning of the third quarter for me to really say, like, okay, he looks good now. He looks good. And that was probably the drive that they scored a touchdown on. I'll skip a little bit. Trevin Ma'ae, he got a big sack on third down near the end of regulation, and he had a blocked extra point. Um, if you can show up on special teams like that and be able to, rush the passer, you can make an NFL team. And then finally, my last two notes are the Cam Miller beautiful touchdown to Shedrick Jackson, who unbeknownst to me, was Bo Jackson's like great nephew. Would have never known. So we have, yeah, we have Bo Jackson's nephew or great nephew on this team, and he looked good. His route that he put on that play was wonderful. The little fake instep and then cut out, just wide open. And then the last note I have, and then we'll move on to the Niners, was that Geno Smith is a leader. And the reason why I say that is because at some point towards the end of this game, there was a timeout. I don't know if it was a 2-minute warning or what. Maybe it was it might have been an injury timeout or something. I don't know. But I want to say it was a big play coming up. And Cam Miller, is just doing the usual timeout things where, like, maybe he's getting water or whatever, probably talking to the coach or hearing the play come through. And Geno Smith walked all the way from the sideline to Cam Miller in the middle of the field to, like, talk to him and, say whatever he felt needed to be said, giving him pointers, right?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't help but like seeing that. Like, you don't see that very often in preseason games, in my opinion. Especially for a third string, like, rookie. Like, if anything, maybe they'd have the rookie come to the sideline to talk to the coach, and then it's like, oh, Geno Smith just so happens to be standing there. But the fact that he went out of his way to go to the midfield during a timeout and, like, get in his ear and talk to him, like, I thought that was cool. And obviously, just to bring it up, like, there was some, I don't know how you'd say it, like, not like the media is going after him or anything, like, it's not like a big story, but, people saw that he flipped off this guy in the stands right before the game.
Oh, Geno?
Give him like a Geno, yeah, he gave him like a double bird, and then followed right behind him was Max Crosby doing the same thing, which are literally the two leaders of this team. And then the other leader, the main leader of this team, would be Pete Carroll. And when Pete Carroll was asked about this moment of, like, Geno Smith was caught, making a gesture towards a fan in the stands, Pete Carroll's response was, well, did you see the sign that he had? Which I agree completely. If Patrick Mahomes was caught double birding some dude, like, I wouldn't be over here like, oh, see, Pat Mahomes is such a douchebag, blah, 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 blah. Like, if I saw the sign, I'd be like, yeah, I don't blame him. And, of course, Pat Mahomes isn't going to get that sign because he's won Super Bowls. Geno Smith, the sign said bigger bust, Geno Smith or Jamarcus Russell, which on the surface, maybe, huh?
It's clearly Jamarcus Russell, but
yeah, on the surface, it's like the guy isn't, like, putting an F-bomb on his poster or something like that. So I could see how somebody would be like, well, it doesn't warrant, like, flipping him off. But to me, it's like, we all know how big of a, like, fuck you that sign is to a person. Like, why do you... I don't understand what makes a person decide, like, what should I do going to this game? Oh, I have an idea. I should bring a poster that says, who's the bigger bust, him or Jamarcus Russell? Yeah, that's a good idea. I should do that. Like, I don't know. To me, you're a child. If you bring a sign to, like, demoralize somebody, bear in mind, like, Jamarcus Russell was a first overall pick. He fucking sucked. Yada, yada, yada. We all know how that went. Geno Smith. A Seahawks... This is what kills me. A Seahawks fan coming to the game with a poster, is he the bigger bust? He was not a bust for you. He was good. He was above what anybody expected when he signed to the Seahawks. if any fan base would have that opinion of Geno Smith, it's Jets fans. Because they drafted him in the second round, bear in mind. At least I think it was the second round. And he didn't work out. So at that point, I could see a Jets fan going like, "Oh, he's such a terrible bust, blah blah blah." But really bigger than Jamarcus Russell? Like, just I don't know. Point being, just grow up. Like, in my opinion, the guy fully deserved it. I think it's hilarious. And I think the fact that it was Geno Smith and Crosby doing it, and Pete Carroll eventually saying, like, "Did you see the fucking sign?" I have no issues with it. I would probably do the same thing.
Can I chime
Because
in
it's
on this?
ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually glad that you brought it up because I completely forgot about it, and I have my thoughts on it. So, you know, I mean, clearly Jamarcus Russell is the bigger bust, right? And all right, I've seen this guy get ridiculed by like football fans or people on social media, like literally, you know, as if they're much better, than this guy who made the poster, which maybe they are. I don't know everybody in the world. But like what the poster says essentially is Geno Smith, you suck, right? It just says Geno Smith
Yeah.
sucks. And with that
Yeah, it's
being
not like
said,
F the
I
Raiders. It's
I want to be
singling
very
him out.
clear. I want to be very clear. I have no issue with Geno Smith flipping the guy off. It was that guy's choice to make the poster, and it was Geno Smith's choice to flip him off. Yeah, that poster warranted a double bird to the fucking fan. Like, I don't see what like obviously it's a legendary picture of Geno Smith just fucking flipping off the crowd, and I didn't see the
Yeah.
poster at first, but after seeing the poster, I'm like, because I was like, man, who the fuck is
Damn.
he flipping off? Like, you
Yeah.
know, and
Well, it could be
all right,
interpreted to where it's like, is he flipping off Seahawks fans pregame? That's fucked
yeah,
up.
I was like, whoa, uh,
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't expect him to be like, man, fuck the Seahawks. They were talking shit about me, how, that they're happier with the third round pick. But like, I,
I'll just
the poster is stupid, right? It's a stupid
Yep.
poster, but like fans will make posters. Geno Smith has to have heard worse things in his NFL career from a fan and not responded than what was on that poster. And
Yeah.
Geno Smith, it's in his right to respond however he feels is appropriate.
And I'll just put two more things on it. One, he did it at a time when he was not being filmed like by the NFL media, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Those were just pictures and some bystander videos that caught him doing that, right? Like if it was beginning of the game and like there's a good chance that the camera's on you, then it's like, nah, don't do that, right? But the moment that he did it, I had no problem. It's when the Raiders are coming out of the tunnel. Uh, and then the second thing that I would say, and this is my last point, I didn't know about the poster, or sorry, I didn't know that he flipped him off until like after the game. But I knew about the poster before the game started because the way that the Raiders broadcast did it was instead of showing the players coming out of the tunnel, they just showed Geno Smith and the quarterbacks coming out of the tunnel and like, doing their group quarterback, like all right, guys, let's get it done today on three, 1, 2, 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as the camera's like panning around them and Geno Smith's kind of leading that little three guys and Greg Olsen, whatever you want to call it, group up, you can see the poster in the background, like just some dude fucking standing there like rah, 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 right over them with the poster. I'm just sitting at the couch like, really? Like that was just my response. Like as a person I'm not Geno Smith, and I was just like, what an idiot! What a fucking idiot!
I think he was trying to be funny, dude. Because all right,
I
Jamarcus Russell is like notoriously the biggest bust, if not in NFL history, then in at least Raiders history. And they're playing the Raiders, and then Geno Smith is clearly not a bust, and so he's just comparing the two, right?
yeah
Because both both Geno Smith and Jamarcus Russell are both quarterbacks that have played well. Geno Smith will be a quarterback who has played for the Raiders, right? But I think it was just a way to talk shit. And like if he said something else like, that's worse than that, then I would say that would further justify Geno Smith, but the poster alone, you know, like fans interact with players all the time. Like Aaron Rodgers, to Bears fans, I still own you, doing that shit.
Right.
Like I'm sure that the fans are saying like fuck you, you suck, like all this stuff. Like I just think it's normal, you know.
Mm.
So I don't know. I particularly don't. I don't think that either uh, it's really not as big of a deal as I think people are making it out to be on either side of Geno Smith or the fan, which I haven't seen anybody defend the fan. And I'm not really defending the fan, but I'm just like, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I just think it's stupid, but that's really my
It is
last
stupid.
point. Yeah, I don't understand the point of bringing a sign just to demoralize a player who is not a bust. Like, I don't know. It's a weird decision. Like, it would have made more sense if it was like, and like, why not a positive poster like, let's go, Sam Darnold, or something like that, even though he didn't play. Like, I don't know. It's whatever. Let's move on to the Niners.
No, no, no. Hold on, hold on. I know Raider fans though are thankful that that guy made that poster deep down because that's an awesome picture of Geno Smith for Raider fans to have. Or at least I could just see that picture of Geno Smith doing the double bird. Whenever Tyler talks shit to the Raiders in the group chat, I could see Enrique just dropping that picture to Tyler, or like, let's just say the Chargers lose and it's, freaking double birds. Like that's iconic. I'm sorry. That's like George Kittle doing the F Dallas shirt, you know?
Right.
Except
Yeah.
the George Kittle shirt was premeditated. He planned on doing that, uh, and did it at the end of the game. And the Geno Smith, the double bird was reactionary to what the fan, you know, his poster slash maybe what he might have said. So
Yeah.
that's just my take on it. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. But we're gonna move on to the Niners. I just want to say shout out to JE, which is actually Joel, who is one of the OGs who's been watching the show forever. Um, Joel, thank you for letting us know that it's you, because I saw JE and I'm like, well, that kind of sounds like Joel E. So uh, thank you. And then Carl Weezer's favorite, Llama Breaths, says go Raiders. So, I know Mike agrees with that. I'm a Niner guy personally, but welcome to the channel. Papa J says, what's up, Josh and Mike? What's up, Papa J? Welcome back. Kenny 49er says, Gino is fine for now. RNJ podcast says, salute, guys. Welcome back, RNJ. I think it might have been you that was just live right before our show. So hope you had a good stream. Welcome to ours. And Joel says, thoughts on Jackson Powers Johnson getting moved to guard? I personally dislike the move because he needs to play center, or we're going to have the same issues that we had with Andre James.
I think my opinion on JPJ and like his placement on the line is like, I remember watching him at like the Senior Bowl and just thinking that dude can play anywhere on the interior and have no problem. Like I'm not so worried about him playing guard relative to center. Like center is his natural position and he probably is best there. Um I guess the main worry, like you're saying, of like having Meredith play center, I don't know if you're necessarily saying like, oh, Meredith is bad at center, but just, potentially having the same issues of like having Andre James at center. Like having a guy who is natural to the position just makes more sense to me, especially in a position where he might be the one making call outs at times for protections and whatnot. Like, is Meredith that type of guy? I would assume no. Maybe they want to put that on Geno. I don't know. But my main concern would just be how does Meredith play? Because at least if I'm not mistaken, per PFF, he was actually really good at guard last year, right guard, um, like statistically or whatnot. Um, I've heard the assumption, if you will, that the Raiders offensive line coaches want Meredith at center because of his arm length. Like they see him as a guy who should be starting, but they just feel like his arm length fits better apparently at center rather than guard. I don't know how much that tracks, but you know, I I don't know. I just want what's best at the end of the day. And as a fan, I don't always know what's best. Chances are most of the time I don't know what's best. And I certainly don't know what's going on in the building or why they're doing it this way or what have you. So I think this is one of the occasions where I don't really have the best opinion on it. It's more just can we please get what needs to happen to happen? You know,
Yeah.
can we have what happens be the best possible outcome? That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, my hunch, and this is somebody who doesn't really, watch the Raiders or, well, not that I don't watch the Raiders. It's just I'm not like diehard like you guys are because I'm not a Raider fan, right? Like I'm kind of the outside perspective, but it just seems to me like it's one of those things where they're moving to a Chip Kelly led offense. Like it's his scheme, and perhaps Jackson Powers Johnson maybe just fits better as a guard in Chip Kelly's scheme. Um, but that's my take on it. Could be something else, but yeah, Papa
Or
J's.
I think another point that you said was potentially for pooling.
Yeah, for polling, getting to the second level, just having an
Yep.
athlete that really is able to be mobile. Uh,
That's my favorite reasoning for why that I've ever heard so far this offseason. So,
yeah,
yeah,
because typically centers will not pull. You
right.
know, it's typically guards. Some schemes will have tackles pull. But yeah, Papa J is obviously joking around with Joel about his name. I actually do like the name Joel, but I'm just at a point where if I have a kid, I can't really name them Joel unless I want like another Joel in the family because I have a little cousin named Joel. I do like that name though. Let's move on to the 49ers versus Broncos recap. Um, Mike, you were being very critical of the Raiders, but I just want to say that this game was very brutal to watch, like all around. Right? Uh, Here are the things that stood out to me, personally. I'm going to start with the positives, and then I'll finish with the negatives, and then kind of summarize what I want to see like improve. But the positives, I thought Guy Haberman, I think he sounded good as the 49ers play-by-play commentator. It was his first game doing so, and I didn't have any issues or complaints. I think the 49ers made a good choice. Obviously, still wishing the best for Greg Papa and his health. Uh, I thought Robert Saleh was very good in this game. I think that he showed a lot of creative ways to dial up pressure, and the 49ers second team defense, I think, did a really good job giving a lot of issues to the Broncos starting offense. So we talked in the Raiders topic about, a second team unit bullying a first team unit. It literally just happened to the Broncos, and the Broncos are supposed to be one of the better teams in the AFC. Everybody's projecting them to go deep in the playoffs. So, you know, Mike, I just think that it happens. Like, I think the Niners and Seahawks maybe are in a similar boat where they're both in an upward trajectory and their defenses are probably just getting better, you know?
Mm.
So definitely, I was very encouraged by the fact that, Bo Nix and the rest of the offense really didn't get going. Uh, but Jordan Watkins was also good. Although Watkins is now injured with a high ankle sprain and will miss, about a month, which obviously isn't good. I think that he played. I think he played pretty well. He had a long catch from Mac Jones and finished the day as the leading receiver with 3 catches for 56 yards. And he even had a rush for 3 yards, which obviously that's not very efficient. But I like that there's creativity coming back into the offense with, you know, receivers actually getting rushes. So um, another positive, I thought Corey Kiner the running back. I think that he looked good, and as of right now, I think it's he's likely to have a role as McCaffrey's backup. Obviously because there's the Jordan James injury, which I think that he's supposed to be back sooner rather than later. But also Isaac Guerendo's shoulder injury. So, Corey Kiner might be in line to be a backup if Shanahan can trust a rookie, which he seems to more often than not have trouble with. But Corey Kiner had 10 carries for 45 yards. Not really much more that you can ask for. It's pretty efficient. And then, more positives. Safety Marquez Siegel. He made 7 tackles, and he honestly looks in line to be one of the starting safeties right now, alongside Jason Pinnock. So Jair Brown might be getting moved to the bench, and then when Malik Mustafa comes back, I think that's encouraging. I'm liking the safety room, so far, because I've heard that Jair Brown has had kind of a rough camp. And then we've got cornerback Chase Lucas. He had 8 tackles, 2 quarterback pressures, and a pass breakup. And, so he played pretty well in this game. I think that he can be a solid backup to Upton Stout, at nickelback. Or, maybe if he continues this high level of play, maybe if Upton Stout, who has been good in camp, if maybe he's not ready, they can kind of ease him in and Chase Lucas can play, because Chase Lucas at least has experience at the NFL level. But I do think Upton Stout is the starter, and he just didn't play, I think, for calf soreness. But I do like that this secondary showed, they showed promise, because as of going into training camp, it kind of seemed like, man, who do the 49ers really even have back there? They let go of Charvarius Ward. Malik Mustafa's banged up. And then really, the whole defense has been kind of a question mark. And then this might be the most significant positive of all. But Jake Moody, he didn't miss any kicks versus the Broncos. And this is primarily because there was only one attempt, which was a PAT after the first touchdown. So, obviously I set that up, but I'm just joking. But, he technically didn't miss. So, one day at a time, right? The negatives were very frustrating. But Carter Bradley and Tanner Mordecai, and this is extremely negative. Carter Bradley was horrible. He was dog shit. Sorry, Carter, if you ever see this, but I didn't like the way that you played against the Broncos. But Bradley was 6 of 14 for 32 yards and an interception. It was, like I said, brutal to watch. 32 yards. Mike, how do you play that long and only get 32 yards? You throw the ball 14 times, only pick up 32.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of 3 and outs, turnover on downs type things.
Mm-hmm.
Punts,
Yeah. And then Tanner Mordecai, who got cut for the second time in 2 weeks, poor guy. He was 3 of 6 with 21 passing yards and an interception. He's no longer on the team unless they brought him back a third time. But I believe Mordecai also lost a fumble too, so that was not good. But I personally, it's really hard to tell because Carter Bradley played more of the game than Mordecai did. Mordecai, I think just got the very end of the game and only attempted 6 passes. But I personally thought kind of for that reason that Mordecai was, I guess less worse than Bradley, because at least Mordecai could run. He had 1 rush for 15 yards, which was almost half of the total yards that Carter Bradley had. I forget how long Mac Jones played, but I feel like the majority of the game was Carter Bradley, and it was just I was like, "Yay, Niner football's back!" Oh, Niner football's back. like, yeah. Um, but another negative was the backup offensive line. What was that? You know, like what I said last week, this team cannot afford to have injuries. You know, they are so thin at offensive line. It's insane. And then I think maybe Ben Barch might be injured or something because he left practice early, but I don't know if any more details came out. I haven't looked it up since I heard the news earlier that he didn't finish practice, but it's just frustrating as a fan because I was looking at the offensive line and I'm like, man, on the backup unit they really don't have anybody, right? They have Spencer Burford, but he didn't even play well in this game. And every year, Mike, what's the one position group that I beg the 49ers to draft, with their early draft picks?
Offensive line?
Yeah. Every year I beg them to draft offensive line or at least invest, cap space in free agency, and they just don't. It's who they are, and it hurts the football team. Right? And so we just have to pray that everybody stays healthy. And then Nick Martin also wasn't very strong in this game. He missed too many tackles, and now it kind of makes a little bit more sense. I know last week I mentioned kind of the linebacker depth chart and why Luke Gifford was the starting, strong side linebacker, and D. Winters was the starting weak side linebacker, and that Nick Martin was the backup. But I think it's just more apparent that I think Nick Martin just needs to improve, or develop, before he's ready to take the starting job, whether it be the strong side or the weak side. So as of right now, it's pray nothing happens to D. Winters. Knock on wood. The offense as a whole was just not good in this game. There was 203 total yards of offense. That is horrible. Mike, do you want to guess how they did on third down? They had 12 opportunities on third down. How many do you think they converted?
3 for 12.
No, guess again.
5.
They were 1 of 12 on third down. So pretty good, right? That'll win you a lot of football games. But
that'll do it.
It was just, like I said, very frustrating to watch. And, really in summary, I really think the 49ers are going to have to bring in free agents, to be backups on the offensive line. I think that they should call up John Feliciano because he has said, John Lynch should call him. He's willing to come back. I think that would be a good depth piece, if not maybe starting over Ben Barch at left guard, But they need to sign someone to help, right? And then
they need bodies.
They do.
Especially a receiver.
I don't think it's that bad, personally. And I think we got some Ayuk injury news that maybe he might be aiming for week 6. Which, I don't know how that makes me feel from a fantasy football perspective, because it's we saw him last year and he wasn't that great, but
right.
From a football perspective, that makes the receiving room a lot more dynamic. So, the 49ers also, I think, need to be in the market for quarterback depth, and, because Bradley was awful and they got rid of Tanner Mordecai, and their rookie that they brought in is still injured with an ACL injury. Or I don't know if it's an ACL or some significant injury. That's really, I mean, that's all I have for the game. It was just like I kind of want to forget about it, you know. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Were you able to catch any of it, Mike? Did anything stand out to you?
I was able to catch little glimpses of it. I basically what I saw was parts of the first quarter, parts of the second quarter, and then the final score.
Mm-hmm.
And what I noticed just from that was that this was basically the opposite of the Raider game. Kind of like you said, of like, the Raider game was a little bit more exciting, whereas this was not, right?
Yeah.
But I think for as boring as that game was, and I'm sure, like you said, there were issues with third downs and, some, you know, blocking and whatnot. Um, I would feel pretty good about the fact that the Broncos starting offense was struggling. Like basically, I think what you had started with, which was the Seahawks and Niners are kind of like more going upwards, whereas maybe I don't know. I mean, it's still weird to me, but whatever. Just the fact that these starting offenses were struggling against not exactly the starters, you know. At least for you guys, you're on the right end of that at the beginning of the game. Like you guys were winning to start the game, right? And at least for me, I could be wrong, but at least for me, um, the way that I feel about preseason games is the first quarter is all that really matters. Like after that, it's just who flashes, who is making a good solid campaign to make a roster, right? Like,
Yeah.
but in the first quarter, that's when I'm like, all right, how are we doing here? How are we winning this game? Are we looking efficient? Are we scoring points? What are we doing here? And the Raiders, in their game, it was dog shit. Their starters, like, just not good against backups, right? So like the Niners being able to do really good against Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton, and company, I feel like that's a big positive.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, and then Joel asks, how has Alfred Collins looked? And I mean, really as a whole, not that great. He from the clips that I see, he's got a very slow get off, very high pad level. Like he's huge. He's very physically imposing. Like he's a massive human being, but he just has to have that aggression. You know, so I mean, we'll see. I didn't get a chance to really watch much of him, but I did read some things like he was trying to bat passes. You know, uh, which I personally love the thought of you know finally having a defensive lineman who knows to put their hands up, because how many times have we been have the 49ers been like just kind of wrecked by like opposing defenses that just put their hands up and bat down passes. Like I feel like that happens to the Niners more than a lot of other teams, but maybe that's just because I watch the Niners more than a lot of other teams. So um, yeah, but I notice a lot of the time it happens against us rather than for us. So if he can do that, that'd be good. If he's not going to have the aggression to get to the passer, at least he can clog up running lanes. And if the quarterback's going to be taking off, there won't be massive running lanes if he's able to hold his ground and kind of like keep the quarterback within a pocket. If he can play two gap at least, like I you know I want to I I think that would be I'm just my expectation for him is he's just going to be like a run defender, and then they're going to sub him out when it's like a clear passing situation. But uh, going back to real quick, another Niner related question from Papa J. He said, "I heard our second string O line was facing Denver's D line first string, and our third string was facing their second string. I mean, still, like, who is our third string offensive line. Like, I don't think that we have that many players. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But it was horrible all around. But you might be onto something, Papa J. But let me see the current depth chart. At least I was looking at a depth chart that kind of had players that were projected to actually make the team. And so, like, you know, the players that are currently like projected to make the team are, on the offensive line, obviously the starters. But on top of that, Spencer Burford, Connor Colby, and Drew Moss, right? Those are the guys that are projected to make the team. And then obviously you've got other guys in the room who are fighting for a job on the team. Andre Dillard, Isaiah Prince, Nick Zakel, Matt Hennessy, Drake Nugent, Austin Pleasance, Isaac Alarcon. Like, it's got to be better, like, altogether, I think. And if not, they're going to have to bring people in who can be better. Or next offseason, finally pay. I thought this year it should have been Drew Dahlman. You should have brought in Drew Dahlman, gave him a contract, but who knows? Like, maybe he just didn't want to come to San Francisco. I think he ended up staying with the Falcons, right, Mike? Or did he go to New York? Where'd he go?
I think he stayed with the Falcons.
Yeah, I don't know. RNJ podcast says, hit those thumbs. Thank you. Like the stream, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Also, shout out to RNJ Podcast's channel. Go check it out. PS says, oh, Moody. Yeah. I think we can move on, Mike, because it's a very special moment, and luckily over the past couple seasons, we have been able to have weeks where our team plays one another. Let me just tell you, it's fucking on! Oh, man.
That's great. Your mic 1000% did not pick up the last part of that.
I think it did on the stream, but I don't think it did on our like call here, because I think it like filters it.
Oh, okay. Gosh. Oh, yeah,
I'll have to check it after, or let me know in the comments.
It sounded muffled.
Yeah. But
yeah.
But all right, we're gonna go into Las Vegas. We're probably I'm not going, but the Niners are gonna go to Las Vegas. Probably hit up the casino and then fucking whoop some Raider ass. Sounds like a good plan, right, Mike?
Hey.
Why don't you tell me what you're looking for out of these practices, and then I'll tell you kind of, what I'm looking for.
Out of the practices or the preseason game?
Well, all right, the joint practice. There's one singular, practice. Paulina said that was crunchy. I think like the
yeah.
But the joint practice, and then like what are we looking for in the preseason game?
Well, in joint practice, I would say I want to hear about, who stands out. I obviously they'll probably do some sort of 7-on-7 or 11-on-11 drills. I want to hear who won, right?
Yeah.
Did either team look more dominant? Were there any positions that really got after it? Were there any fights? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because a lot of the times, the joint practices you can arguably get more out of than the preseason game, especially because you get starters practicing against starters. So when you have somebody there reporting it, it's very interesting to hear that, right? I don't know if that's a good segue to hint at something, but I'll leave that to you.
All right. I forgot where I heard it from, but I think one of the reasons why they decided to cancel or not have two joint practices or multiple is because I guess typically teams, when they joint practice together for multiple days, the team that does worse is more likely to fight the other team the next day.
Oh,
So
yeah,
they probably just held it to one practice for that reason.
probably.
But I'll tell you what I'm kind of looking for, right?
Mm.
Or what I want from this Niners versus Raiders week. You know, other than to see Raider fans suffer. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I just want the backup offensive line to play better, you know, and I want the third and fourth string quarterbacks to not be so awful. Like it's really that simple. Like, you know, third and fourth stringers are not going to be very good regardless of team, but like in terms of quarterback, I would like guys who either have upside to develop, uh, which Shanahan and quarterbacks with upside to develop. You might know how I feel about that already, but if you're not going to have a guy with upside to develop, at least get a guy who can execute the offense, right? Like have one of the two. You know, if you have neither one, like it's horrible. You're wasting your time. But in joint practices, I like because I'm not gonna be there to like watch it, and we should be having a special guest next week who will be there, uh, and he will be able to give us some details. Should I spoil it, Mike, or
That's what I was alluding to when I came into that.
yeah? We should have Grant Cohn on next week. You know, Grant, is a friend of mine, and as long as everything schedule wise is good, he's come on the show. The past 2 years. So, not saying it's an annual thing, but it's definitely something that I'm very thankful that he's done for us over the past. This will be the third year in a row. So, shout out to Grant. I'm looking forward to asking him questions on his experience and everything. So tune in. It'll be next Monday for that. But as a fan who won't be able to be there and really watch, I want to hear at least how the 49ers receivers do against the Raiders secondary, because like I feel as though this week will be a better week for them because they're not facing against like the Broncos secondary. You know,
Hmm.
the Broncos secondary definitely I would say is better than the Raiders secondary. Would you agree, Mike?
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah. And then I'm also looking to read and hear that Brock Purdy was better this week. This time around because he did throw some interceptions against the Broncos in the joint practice. So I'm also interested to see how Trent Williams does against Max Crosby, assuming that they line up, uh, against each other. And then also the other side of the ball and other team, or teams flip flop, Bosa versus Colton Miller. If we can actually hear the stats of those matchups, uh, I think that would be very interesting. And that's something I'm looking forward to hearing. So that way, when the Niners kick some Raider ass, I can just have more shit to talk to Mike over here, who loves it when I talk shit to him, as you can tell. Uh, no, I'm joking with you, Mike, don't leave the stream. Mike, it's okay. Don't cry, Mike. Um, I also want to hear more great things about the secondary because I just want them to be consistent this season, and it would be great if Chase Lucas and Marquez Siegel are able to become consistent contributors. I think that would be huge for this team. And, um, you know, can this defensive front limit Ashton Janty? The Seahawks second unit, as we've said, was able to. Let's see the 49ers do it too. I don't see why not. And the fact that they were able to, be good against J.K. Dobbins and R.J. Harvey, let's just see it. Let's see it again. Because last season we had issues stopping the run. And really kind of late 2023, that's when like the cracks started to show. So the whole stopping the run, I guess. I don't know if they're going full go in these practices, Mike. They don't go full to the ground, right? In joint practice.
I don't think so.
So
I mean, I think the offensive line versus defensive line usually is like physical, but I don't
yeah.
know about anything else.
Well, the receivers, the 101s, that's also like that's real football right there too, you know. But everything else is just not really, you know. Like the if you can't really bring a running back to the ground and can't really like wrap him up much, how can you know if he was going to break that tackle or not? You know, like it's not the best indicator. Like you can't replicate game speed, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What are yeah, Papa J. Yeah, Mike almost left, right? Look. Yeah. Yeah, press that button.
Nah.
If you leave, you're never coming back. Just kidding. But yeah, Mike, what specifically are you looking for, like on the Raiders side?
Well, I mean, for starters, no pun intended. How much do the starters play?
In the game
Um,
itself?
in the game, yes. I'm kind of moving towards the game now. Uh, I want to see more of Thomas Booker, JJ Pegues, Trevin Mae or Mai, however you say it. Sorry. Tonka Hemingway on the edge, Jaw Joyner. Um, I want to see. Uh, I want to. I don't know if I noticed Darnay Holmes in this Seahawks game. I want to see Darnay Holmes and maybe be able to compare him against somebody like Greedy Vance, who I'm sure will get more snaps in this game. I want to see Kai Kyu Ki Blue Kelly, however you say his first name. I don't know. It's Kyu Blue Kelly. Caillou. I don't know. Sorry. Um, he's apparently gaining steam in the cornerback room. He had some flashy plays this past week. I want to see more of him and how he plays. As far as safety, I want to see Chris Smith and Thomas Harper and, you know, kind of get an idea of who might be that third safety with, oh man, I'm forgetting his name. With the safety that went down at the family practice a week or two ago. Um, I want to see how the linebackers shape up, moving forward with, the rise of Jamal Adams. How is that going to play out? Uh, Antonio Mafia at right guard, I'm pretty sure he was getting some snaps with the ones today. Um, I'm curious how he does. Um, I want to see if Dylan Lobby is able to kind of keep it up and gain momentum this preseason and maybe make a solid attempt at making this roster. Um, and then I'd say the main three at the end here. I want to see more of Shedrick Jackson, the one that caught the long touchdown last week. I want to see more of Philip Dorsett, simply because he looked really good last week. And, if he's worthy of making this team, I want to see it. I feel like the final receiver spot right now for me is probably between those two guys. And then most of all, I want to see more Jack Besh. Um, I want to see if Aiden O'Connell plays better in this game. And of course, I want to see more Cam Miller in this game. I want to see him get the entire second half. Like, I don't know. Again, my first question, how much do the starters play? If it's one drive again, just give Aiden O'Connell the first half, give Cam Miller the second half. Just do that. And then finally, the last one, can Ash Gianti get some big plays going in this game? Can he actually get positive yardage and perhaps average more than 3 yards per carry in this game? Because last week he was averaging negative 1 yard per carry, if I'm not mistaken. So, and really going with that is, can the offensive line play better? Can the defensive line also play better? Can we tackle better? I want to see all those things in this game.
Yeah. I feel like if Cam Miller is showing promise, like, maybe you have Aiden O'Connell start the game, have him play the first quarter, and then you can just play Cam Miller from the second quarter to after halftime. Do the Raiders have another quarterback on the roster that would play the second half though, or
No, I'm pretty sure right now they only have the three guys.
yeah? So I don't know. I feel like it's preseason. Why don't they? They should have more. I feel like there used to be, or I used to see more. I'm used to seeing more quarterbacks like on the roster because
I'm used to seeing four.
yeah,
And
and right
usually,
now
obviously, the
it's like
starter doesn't play much, and then you have three guys playing the rest of the game. Like, so having just two guys, like, to me, it just makes sense to go first half, second half. I can
yeah.
understand if it's like, all right, give O'Connell a little bit of the third quarter to make it even, but I don't know. I want to see as much of Cam Miller as possible, especially coming off of last week.
Yeah, like to me, if he's showing promise, maybe have Cam Miller start the game and then do the first drive of the second half, so that way he has that experience in the NFL of, completing a half, going into halftime, making adjustments, getting that first drive, and then you put in O'Connell to just finish the game. But if you really feel like Cam Miller is just kind of like, late round draft pick, like, could be our backup quarter. I mean, like you would want to probably have your backup quarterback ready, like, but you guys still have Aiden O'Connell, who does have starting experience. So
Right. I mean, that's the thing. As long as Aiden O'Connell's here, I expect him to be the second quarterback because he has starting experience. But I mean that first part is the key. As long as we have Aiden O'Connell, like I wonder if he's you know, in play for getting traded at the end of the preseason. Does some team want a guy with some starting experience? And do the Raiders feel confident enough in Cam Miller to where they can just say, you know what, he fits this better. Let's just roll with the two quarterbacks and go from there.
so
I don't know. We'll see.
Tommy Millott is only receiver or tight end or no receiver.
Receiver, yeah. And
Okay.
I didn't really notice him in this last game. I only noticed him at the I think in the fourth quarter returning a punt.
Yeah, but yeah, really, like I just want to see another week of football. It's simple as that, and I want to see better football probably from both teams, but
Yeah,
primarily
I would love to
49ers.
see I'd love to see a fun physical game between,
I want a healthy
between the Raiders
game.
and the Niners.
I want a
Yeah, for
healthy
sure, a
game.
healthy game, which that was a positive from last week's Raider game for sure, but um anytime the Raiders and Niners play each other, it's always a fun time. So, I'm hoping it's another one of those Raiders and Niner games. Like, remember I think it was the last preseason game? Like, that was like the craziest preseason game ever that I can
Yeah,
remember, where they had the final play with like a fumble Rooski type crazy shit going on. And all leading up to that, it was just like actually a really good game. And then, you know, past couple regular season games have been great. So hopefully this is just another good game.
yeah,
And
and
hopefully some players show out.
if it's not, then you will be forced to quit the podcast. And like Pia says, it'll be a Niner only show, and it'll be very nice. Just joking. But also, I want to give a shout out to Fonzie, who's tuning back in. Fonzie's one of the OGs who has been watching, since like one of our very first streams. So, you know, definitely appreciate Fonzie for making an appearance. We're going to be going live next Monday, as long as nothing changes. And we should have special guest Grant Cohn. And yeah, we don't have a time picked out yet, so I'm sorry I can't tell you guys that. But just, as I always say, just stay tuned. But yeah, man, we're getting closer and closer to actual significant football being played. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're going into week 2 of the preseason, and then come out of week 3, it's like, all right, draft your fantasy teams, and a week later, it's on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was a great episode, right, Mike?
I would say so.
Yeah, I just want to quickly, run through the list of people and give shout outs. I want to give a shout out to Papa J, Fonzie, Pia, Paulina, RNJ Podcast, Joel, Llama Breaths, Will, Kenny 49ers, and Thrash for tuning into the show today and commenting. We always appreciate seeing you guys on our live streams, and we always appreciate seeing your guys' comments even when we're not live, on the videos afterwards. But yeah, we really don't have much else, for today. Fonzie says, "Thank you guys. I appreciate your hard work." No, thank you, Fonzie. Thank you for making the hard work at least worth it, because you guys are watching it. So, yeah, Fonzie, I'm sorry we got a short episode today. I know you're not used to that from our channel, but tune in next Monday. We will be live. I don't know. It's still yet to be determined. It really depends on the flow. But our entire show next week might be kind of short too, because I think as of right now, the plan might be to just have the entire show be our portion with Grant, because this is the second preseason game, and we're not previewing the season yet. So next week might not be a super comment heavy stream either, but nonetheless, if you guys have good questions, that would be great. And if we have time, we'll get to them with Grant. So, other than that,
sir.
Mike, you got anything before we get out of here?
No, love all the comments. Appreciate everybody. I look forward to next weekend. I look forward to this Saturday.
Hell yeah. Go Niners.
Go Raiders.
No. Go Niners.
Just win, baby.
Don't you mean just tie?
Don't you mean the autumn wind is a Raider?
The autumn wind, what? Did that come out of my butt cheeks or something?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Have a great night. Go Niners.